Welcome to Quick Tips with Michigan Financial Planning. I'm Kevin Brennan.
And I'm Jason Bowering.
And we're the advisors here at MFP. With the holidays right around the corner, oftentimes what we're hearing people concerned about is eating too much and spending too much. While we may be no experts on controlling your eating, not going for that second piece of pie or too many helpings at the Thanksgiving Day dinner table, we do know a thing or two about budgeting, making smarter financial decisions, and controlling your spending around the holidays. Jason, what could you give as advice to those listening today about ways that they can enjoy the holidays without regretting them?
Well, I think the first thing that I would tell somebody is like with all things with financial objectives is to approach it with a plan. So let's plan ahead what you might be spending for the holidays, things that you're not typically going to do, like hosting parties and all the reoccurring gifts and presents. So going into the mindset that these things we're going to plan for, basically.
That's a good point. I always advocate to people, if you know that there's a large expense out on the horizon. Let's say you're planning that big Christmas party in December, and for instance it costs $2,000 for you to put on the party and presents and the groceries and all of the different things that go into the party, rather than that being a unique expense that you're trying to fit into your typical budget. Break that off into smaller chunks. So you have 10 weeks out to that point. Start saving $200 a week now so that it doesn't set you back once you actually incur the expense.
Yeah, I think a good way to do that is to have a couple different accounts set up at your financial institution for these savings. Otherwise, what happens is you just have your checking account, and that just acts as a backup overdraft account, really.
Yeah, and even outside of the holidays, I think this is just a good way to look at your budget year-round. I always recommend to individuals to try and get your budget to match the way that you receive your income. So for instance, let's say you're paid bi-weekly or you're paid 2 times a month. Rather than waiting to pay those large expenses, one time a month, such as a car payment or a mortgage, or rather than waiting to make that one large deposit into your savings account, match your savings and your expenses to align with the way that you get paid. So if you're paid bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, have a payment go to your mortgage company, a partial payment of what's due each month. I will just preface that by saying if your mortgage servicer does charge an expense for doing that, it might be something that would consider doing differently. Potentially either sending outbound payments from your bank if they don't charge a fee, or we could discuss other ways to look at that a little bit differently. But you do want to take that into consideration. If the servicer for whatever loan charges a fee for making those multiple withdrawals each month, we might want to consider it a little bit different.
Definitely, yes. And also with that, with savings, don't wait until the end of the month to pay yourself first. Typically what will happen is the month runs long and you're the last one to get paid. So it's important to pay yourself first and get those savings going.
The other big area is you start to think about all of the different expenses that come along with the holidays, is that you have awareness of your overall financial situation. Too often anymore, I find that feel like we're so busy and there's so many different things that are taking our time, that we just don't sit down and take the time that's needed to either balance our checkbook or align and track our expenses with our bank statements, and balance out what we've spent on our credit or debit cards. And what ends up happening is we just don't truly have an understanding of how much money is coming in each month and how much is going out. We don't ever have an idea of truly what is our average monthly spending on our budget and what is our average monthly income, and be able to decipher or even begin to put ourselves on a budget of what we feel should be realistic savings versus expenses. The other part of that is too is, you know, anymore with all of the different issues that we deal with as far as cybersecurity and different things along those lines, is it's on us to be our first line of defense to make sure that, you know, anything that happens inside our accounts we're catching quickly, so that we can reach the proper channels to make sure that you know, things are resolved quickly and that they can be resolved.
Yes, and one of the ways that we do that, or that clients can keep track of all this, is we use a system called eMoney. And what that does is allow clients to track all of their assets in one spot, cash flow, liabilities. There's other ways to track it, but that's the one we prefer, and that's what all of our clients use.
Yeah, definitely. As Jason mentioned, you know, there's a lot of different tools out there to utilize that can track your spending, even if you don't have access to eMoney. The one thing that I would say is just make sure any of those third-party or any of those providers, you know, that have an understanding of how they may or may not share your information with third parties, just to make sure that your data is safe and different things along those lines. But lastly, what I would say with the holidays is, don't let your finances dictate your joy. You know, the focus should be on family and that time versus the things that we're getting for those individuals. And so, if you don't have it, I don't think that's the important part. If you don't feel like you have the finances, don't feel the pressure to overextend yourself with credit cards and to you know, spend the future on today's Christmas presents. You know, we look at it and say, if you can't immediately pay off those balances on the credit cards and avoid those high interest charges, don't do it for presents. I don't think that's the important part of the holidays and just spending that time with our family. The other part of that, or the other side of the spectrum of that, is enjoy yourself. You know, I think for a lot of the clients that we work with, for those people who have established habits of saving and do a good job of balancing their budget each month and set the money aside, oftentimes that habit becomes so much the norm that we struggle with ever, you know, stepping away from that and really enjoying ourselves during those times when maybe the expenses do go up. So, you know, don't spend money you don't have, and don't be a Scrooge either. If you have the ability to, you know, we'll use that to share and bless others and enjoy the moment as well.
Okay. Yeah, well, we're hoping to simplify people's financial lives, and we hope you enjoyed these quick tips. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and any other information you might want, go to www.michiganfinancialplanning.com.
Until next time, don't let financial matters stress you out. Bring them in to Michigan Financial Planning.